MMA live before lock time right here on Awesemo.com. I am Jason Floyd. That is the fighter Pete Rogers Jr. Pete, man, another interesting day. This is becoming a very familiar scene that we have find ourselves in once again, man, of me texting you links and this guy's out, this guy's out, this guy's in. Man, it's I'll tell you this, I wasn't in love with this card from a DFS perspective, as was particularly on FanDuel. I found myself really struggling at putting together FanDuel lineups. So for everyone who's not aware, so Brian Kelleher is now taking on Ray Rodriguez as Kevin is pulled from the event due to undisclosed reasons. And now Thiago Moses has tested positive for coronavirus. So his fight versus Jalen Turner is now off the card. So we're now, I believe, 8-fight card now. Oh man, let me get your take right now, Pete. What's your kind of from a DFS perspective? What's your kind of take on it?
Let me actually break some more news, Jason. We just lost another fight, and Romanov and De Lima is now off as well. So looking like we are down to 7 bouts, which is absolutely insane.
This man, and he was a key to my lineup.
Yeah, and you know me, I had Romanov everywhere, and
so
you know now to think of
is Marcos Rodrigo de Lima has tested positive for COVID. Card is down to 7 fights.
Holy moly, man. Holy moly. Now, you know, basically with all these changes, Jason, we're going to have losing fighters in the winning lineup. That's just how it's going to go because, you know, unless a ton of low options come through, I mean, we only have 7 fights to choose from. So the likelihood of a ton of underdogs coming through is a little unlikely. I don't know, man. This is definitely tough now.
Yeah, I would tell you I was, because, I mean, look, I use Fantasy Cruncher as a way to kind of how I can potentially develop some lineups. But overall, I pretty much hand build majority of my MMA lineups. And last night I'm sitting here in the office and I'm working on FanDuel lineups, and I'm just like, man, this is not easy. This is not easy to put together. And so, yeah, that's going to be the very difficult part. And you bring a great point. You got look at who do you think losing fighters could bring in some type of score. I think that is something that, we all have to, consider there. So, that is something to think about in terms of that. I know some people saying my sound's a little low, so we have, boosted it up here. So you should be able to hear it a little bit better. If it is, any worse, let me know. By the way, Mike Peterson goes in Super Chat, hey, man, I appreciate the donation there. He goes, I have a lot of Munoz on FanDuel, cheap option with good subs. Was thinking of pivoting to Montana for some cheap action. What do you guys think? Also, I'm struggling between Kelleher and Minifield.
Yeah, so, you know, like I guess for underdog options, I think Muniz would probably be my favorite, and he was one of my favorites to begin with, and I'll have crazy exposure to him because of his ability to finish fights, 84% finish rate, going up against a guy who has a tendency of getting caught in submissions, even though Fabinski is really, really talented as far as wrestling. Now, I mean, to look a little bit more, you have Cole Smith, you have De La Rosa, you don't have Kelleher's opponent, you have St. Preux or Sakai. So, I mean, your options are limited. So I think that De La Rosa is going to be pretty popular. And, based on the way women's MMA has been and how unpredictable it has been with arm bars and submissions and close decisions. So I don't hate it. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just like I sit there and I look at it and I just, man, I don't know. It's tough because you're going to have to take someone in those low options that you're just going to have to figure out what do you go with? What are those low options? Do you like the, we talked about it on Thursday with the De La Rosa fight of, if she can get in top position, yeah, she's going to be in a good position to succeed. It's just a matter of can she get to that position?
Yeah, and I don't want people to think that Araujo isn't talented, because Araujo started her career, dominating BJJ, and she's really talented. She's a black belt. But cardio does seem like it is somewhat of an issue. And if you're put on your back and you're put in positions where you're not in the dominant position, sometimes your gas tank can plummet very, very fast. So De La Rosa now is in play. And I think, even if like you look across the board, Metafield is relatively untested, so perhaps St. Preux is a little bit more attractive, and maybe you really start to look at Sakai as a guy going up against a guy who could expose a chinny Overeem. But what a headache of a card, and so many last minute adjustments you have to make. But Muniz, out of everybody in the 7K range, is definitely my favorite.
Yeah, he was. So when the Moses Turner fight pulled off, I was literally sitting on my couch and I was putting together lineups at that point. I'm like, okay, and I was just on FanDuel at that point, and I'm like,
Yep.
okay, who do I pivot to? And I was like, you know what? As much as I do like Fabinski because of his wrestling, I'm like, man, Munoz is probably the guy you pivot to. And on the FanDuel aspect, De La Rosa at $9, putting her in your lineup is going to obviously make construction easy. My only concern is if she doesn't win, can she score enough to put you in the money?
I don't know. I don't know which options could really you'd feel comfortable about. But at this point, Jason, we're kind of, slim picking right now, where I think even in a loss or a win, it could work out based on how the fight goes and how we are left with 7 fights. And we're thinking about one of them, Kelleher, you don't even have the option of picking his opponent. So you can't really punt that way. Um, I don't hate not Montana De La Rosa at all.
Yeah, I know. People were asking me about the price point. The only line that's out there right now that I'm seeing on Brian Keller is -345. A majority of the books do not have a line on him. Of course, if you do want to see what the betting lines are on the fights, go to Awesemo.com right at the top, Odds Shopper. You can, if you're looking to price out some odds or where you want to place your bets, so be sure to check that out over at Awesemo.com. But of course, look, we are here to answer your questions. So, Pete, let's kind of get into it. I'm sure that's going to be a lot of questions in terms of that, but. First off, someone mentioned about along with looking at Montana De La Rosa, maybe looking at Cole Smith as well.
Yeah, so I think Cole Smith is a guy we can start looking at too. I mean, there aren't too many people I'm not looking at now, Jason, right? I mean, like, you have to get different. And Cole Smith, let's kind of vouch for him right now. He's facing a guy in Hunter Azure who in the UFC hasn't really shown so much, whereas like on the Contender Series he showed a lot and a lot of promise and was looking really good against Brian Kelleher, but he did just get knocked out really bad. Um, if I'm Cole Smith, I'm going out there and I'm punching him as hard as I can right in the face, because I want to see if that chin is tested and how he can handle the shot. And if I'm Cole Smith, I'm probably throwing lots of head kicks. I'm doing everything to try to scramble that brain of his. And I know that sounds pretty violent, but let's be real. You have to try to expose your opponents at their weakest. And that could honestly be the path to victory, because I don't think Cole Smith's going to be able to out wrestle Hunter Azure. Um, I think Hunter Azure does have better wrestling. The grappling advantage, as far as like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and submission attempts, I would actually favor Cole Smith. He can transition really well. He can go to your back. He can put you in bad positions. We haven't seen Hunter in those positions at the UFC level. So how does he respond? He's definitely in consideration, because the way that Cole Smith is tough, you could probably bank on him lasting 15 minutes. So he's not going to leave you with a single digit score, I don't think. And his grinding type of mentality of going, landing a 1.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. Stranger things have happened. He could go out there and land a couple and put Hunter on his back.
I talked to Cole Smith about 2-ish weeks ago, and that was one of the questions I asked him. I'm like, I go, look, what do you think you're going to see out of your opponent? The fact of last time he was in there, he won the opening round of his fight, and then he gets brutally KO'd. Like, and he admitted, he says, you know what? I don't know what we're going to expect. I don't know what to expect out of him. So that to me is a little bit of a question mark. On the Cole Smith side, hasn't fought in almost exactly a year. And I asked him, I said, what's the last year been like? And he's like, look, it's a year of where I've really evaluated a lot of things. I looked at myself, and he admitted, he said, my last fight, he goes, I was fighting in Canada and the pressure got to me a little bit. And he goes, I didn't enjoy the process at all. I didn't enjoy the process of getting ready for a fight. And he goes, there was just so much things about, fighting in Canada and everything. He said, but this time I'm really enjoying the process. So I think that's something, to kind of think about there. Rob says Azure or Arujo for cash.
I would say
I'd say Arujo.
Really?
I think it's a safer play.
I would say it's safer just because she's not coming off of a bad knockout loss.
My only concern about Arujo, we talked about this on Thursday, is if she wears down in the third round, that gas tank is not there. If you're going to offer any criticism of her, the gas tank is definitely a criticism that you're going to put there on her.
I'm just verifying that fight is off. I did see it from
the fact that John Anik quoted the tweet from Guilherme Cruz tells me, yeah, that fight's off.
Okay.
I'm not sure if John's calling the fights or not, but if John Anik's doing that, yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet. But I don't have Twitter up in front of me, so
crazy.
Yeah. Andrew says everybody's re-crunching right now. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And look, and I'll say this, like, even if you want to hand build lineups, you can still, I still love crunching because then it kind of gives me an idea of what lineups are going to fit. Like, I was all over Romanov. He was going to be a staple of all my lineups, and well, I mean, literally, we'll have about 15 minutes after the show ends I'll be redoing my lineups because typically when I host shows, I'm so concerned with what's going on here, that I just don't pay attention to that. Joe in the super chat says, with the short amount of fights tonight, is stack a fight tonight a real possibility? Maybe Munoz, Fabinski, and Pereira and Salim. Funny thing is, right before we came on here, that is something Pete mentioned.
Yeah, so I think you're going to have a losing fighter in the optimal, and I think stacking the right fights could make a lot of sense. And I do think if I'm looking at the card, right, Overeem Sakai is 5 rounds. So let's throw that out there that stacking that fight, even in a low volume affair, could actually work to your benefit.
Sakai scares me with his low volume, though.
It does. But I mean, if you think in the Menefield St. Preux fight, probably somebody that loses that's going to have single digits or like 10 points. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the card, and I would say the Fabinski-Muniz fight is something that sticks out to me because of the floor of Fabinski, where Fabinski hunts takedowns. And you guys know that I like Muniz quite a bit. He hunts takedowns, and he has in the UFC landed 7 per 15 minutes. So say he lands a couple takedowns and still gets submitted in the second round or whatever, it could actually work out in a loss despite his price tag, because I think losing fighters despite their price tag are going to be in the optimal.
So, by the way, I just saw this come across my timeline that it is now a 7-fight main card starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Pete, that's great news for us, bro.
Oh, that's fantastic, because I'll tell you, nobody had more Romanov than me. In every single lineup, I locked Romanov in there. So I tried to get every possibility.
Yeah, so the new lineup, it'll be Smith Azure to kick off, then Arujo De La Rosa, Kelleher Rodriguez, Munoz Fabinski, Pereira Zalim, OSP Menefield, your co-main event, and Overeem versus Sakai. This could potentially be a very short night of fights, depending on how the fights go. But knowing this, that probably means every fight's going to decision.
Yeah, for real, right? 7 fights and it lasts 4 hours. I hope that DraftKings pushes back the time for us.
I will say this, yeah, hopefully that. I think the other part of this has got to be, if you're the UFC, you got to start wondering why all of a sudden is it in Vegas that all these
Yep.
positive COVID tests are coming up on
Yep.
fight day when
Yep.
all these fighters are being tested on Tuesday or Wednesday when they get there, but when they go to Abu Dhabi, it's not happening?
I don't understand it. And like you asked me that before the show, and I can't really give you an answer. I don't know. Could it be false positives? Could it be, I don't know, bro. Like I could it be people that have COVID, but it's not strong enough to be detected? I mean, they really don't have the best luck at the apex, and we have some great
I,
fights there, but like they seem like they face a lot of trouble there.
it makes me wonder, are fighters not being, are they not listening to the protocols, I guess is about the best way I would put it. The other part of this is, these fighters were around everyone yesterday, so then
Yeah.
that comes into it as well, man. So many questions. I know one of the questions I know we got in here, and some people asked about us talking about the Kelleher Ray Rodriguez fight. So I'm familiar with Ray Rodriguez. I've probably interviewed Ray 3-4 times. Out of Texas. He has been on the verge of the UFC on a couple of opportunities. Most notably the LFA fight where he lost to Chris Gutierrez. Then he had the fight on the Contender Series against Tony Gravely. He's always kind of been there. To me, he's a overall mixed martial artist. I do believe that he will look to take this fight to the. That would be my guess. This is my concern from the Brian Kelleher camp. So basically, you knew yesterday. By the way, hey, the UFC is bringing in a backup fighter just in case. So his team had already been preparing for Kevin. So last night, that's all they did was prepare for Ray Rodriguez. They probably forgot about Kevin. And now, so like, man, because I was even thinking about it, I was like, man, do I want to risk rostering Brian Kelleher at 9,200? And there's so many questions. What's Ray Rodriguez been doing?
Yeah. Okay. So like we always give credit to the guys that are stepping up on short notice, but we never give credit to the guys that are accepting short notice fights. And I think that's just a little bias. And I think that, there needs to be more credit to the guys that are in the position of, I'll fight anybody and I don't care. And it's a big mind game, to have to switch opponents. And when I had it happen to me several times, Jason. I was supposed to fight a guy, right, from one of my kickboxing fights, and he backed out the day of weigh-ins. Mm-hmm. So then I ended up taking a fight 2 weight classes above. And it's just, as long as you're worried about Kelleher is just going to go out there and do what he does. And, you think of Cody Stamann wasn't able to put him away, and Cody Stamann's a top guy in the division. You think about how Brian Kelleher, has really been able to put a halt to Hunter Azur's hype. Hunter Azur had a lot of hype. I don't know what Ray Rodriguez is going to be able to do to Kelleher that he hasn't seen before. There was one fight that kind of had me worried, and it was where Montel Jackson cracked Brian Kelleher really hard. And then you saw Kelleher almost like mentally check out of the fight and then like give up a Darce choke. So minus a hard shot landing, I think Kelleher is just there from bell to bell. And Ray Rodriguez, on the limited footage that I watched, does look like he can get taken down a little bit. And that's not his strong suit. And I do think Kelleher has an underrated ground game, and the submission threat is always there. So we can't roster Kelleher's opponent anyways, but I do think that Kelleher will be one of the most popular plays.
Yeah, that's got to be something you all think about here. By the way, I'm just sitting over here praying my power doesn't go out as I can hear his thundering storm. It's about the thunderstorm outside. So just if all of a sudden this show goes away, that's because Jason lost power, and I'm producing as well as hosting over here. So it happened yesterday when I was doing the MLB show. Thankfully, Jordan was producing. But yeah, lost power right in the middle of the show. That was fun.
Well, we'll figure, if that happens, we'll figure something out. We'll make sure everybody's still able to ask questions or whatever.
Yeah.
People saying I look like Harry Potter. You guys got to stop that, all right? My hair's growing back, Jason. I,
Ow.
I shaved my
Ooh.
head at the beginning of quarantine, so the hair doesn't grow back quite as fast as it used to. Let's be real.
Dude, I've got too big of a dome to go bald. I got too big. Thankfully, I'm the one man on my family side that actually has hair. So I don't know how that's happened, but yeah.
All right. You know what I think people would like is if we went slow fight by fight. I mean, we can do that and answer questions, and we still have an hour, Jason, and longer than that. Um,
Now we're up after us is NBA Live Before Lock.
all right.
They're up at 5:30. I want to say.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'll double check on that, but I'm pretty sure they start at 5:30.
All right.
Um, that now starts at 7 p.m. I just looked on DraftKings. They've not updated yet, so hopefully DraftKings and FanDuel does update that. That'll obviously help out everybody in terms of that. Minifield or Azure FanDuel single entry? I would go Minifield.
Me too.
Um,
I'm taking.
Someone says Sakai is a threat. I would not disagree with that. My concern with Sakai is lack of volume, and I do wonder if Overeem. And you brought up a great point on Thursday of this is someone who's been working a ton with Curtis Blades, and when you think of Overeem's takedowns, they're not your classic takedowns in MMA. He kind of just uses raw power to get guys down. So that to me is a little bit of concern. But look, I think there's got to be a concern. When you talk about the chin of Alistair Overeem.
Yeah. So Overeem has surrounded himself, and he's always kind of done this with talented guys. Like if he gets absolutely destroyed by a guy, he kind of wants to go and train with him, and that's what he did with Curtis Blades. Team Elevation has been on such a hot streak, and you just see what that team has done, and the coming down from Elevation, you have better cardio, you have a good camp, you have strong wrestlers around you. There's on paper, Overeem should beat Sakai. He's probably not at the skill level of Overeem, but Overeem is a liability for taking a shot. And Sakai does like to stand up. And Sakai is 15-1. So, 15 opponents weren't able to figure him out. Whereas, Overeem does have 18 losses. So Sakai actually, he's in my player pool a lot more than he was.
Justin asks, Azure Smith's fight stackable in DK for the grappling heavy bout bring upside for both fighters?
I think grapple heavy bouts. So grapple heavy bouts are really good for stacking because of transitions, advances, takedowns, and that high pace. Stand-up fights with high volume, so like women's MMA stand-up, usually bust slates as well because of the ton of significant strikes. So for me, when I'm looking at Fabinski Muniz, that's a fight that sticks out as a nice stackable fight in this situation. Araujo de la Rosa too. I honestly don't hate it.
Yeah. By the way, if you are looking to see what the ownership projections we have are, you got to sign up for an Awesemo Plus MMA weekly pass for $8.95. It gives you access to our fighter projections, ownership projections, and the top fighters tool. Well, today's a great day to get that pass because that's going to help you out a lot when you want to look at what are the top ownerships out there. Mike, appreciate you in the super chat. He says, hey guys, who would you rather stack, Zaleem or Michelle? Or Minifield and OSP. Minifield scored 50 points on FanDuel in a loss to Devin Clark, and I think Minifield can get a lot of takedown defense points. That's a great point in terms of FanDuel.
So he's talking FanDuel, right?
I would imagine since he brought up FanDuel. I would imagine.
Okay, so if he's talking FanDuel and he wants to stack a fight, that is interesting. I think in that situation, I'd have to agree, even though I don't like that fight the most, because one of these guys are going to either gas or get exposed. And Menifield's a takedown liability. If he gets taken down, we don't really know how he's going to respond. And for DraftKings, I wouldn't stack that fight, but for FanDuel with the takedown defense and all that, that makes sense.
Yeah. By the way, be sure to hit that thumbs up button here on YouTube. We got almost 350 people in here, only 49 likes. Be sure to hit that like button, get that up. Also, be sure to subscribe here to Awesemo as well. Miguel says, which fights would we not stack?
Dude, my spreadsheet is a mess right now. I wish I could I'm trying to process every time I look at it. I'm almost better off pulling up the Tapology.
Here's the thing. I think the Pereira Zaleem fight. I think that's. Well, we only have 7 fights. You could say there's a lot of must roster fights, but I feel like that is the fight. I think that's where you start at. I think that's the fight you start at when you're building your lineups. And you go from there. And someone has said Pereira and Menifield are probably going to be very chalky now. Very chalky.
Yeah, because they're both round 1 guys. So for me, right, I'm looking at these 8. I can kind of do this better now that I pull up the Tapology. They don't even have the Romanov fight off. Whatever. I would actually prioritize the Fabinski-Muniz fight. I keep screaming it. I think that whoever wins that is going to score well based on tons of takedowns and submission attempts or whatever. The loser could actually do well in there too. I'm targeting that fight a ton.
Yeah, just looking at ownership projections that we currently have, the lowest owned, you ready for this one, is 37%.
Oh, God. So I think...
you might be surprised who the 37% is.
Overeem.
Hunter Azure. That's on.
Wow.
That's on DK.
Wow.
Man, I'm just looking at FanDuel. Whew.
What a mess. Okay.
I shouldn't be surprised who's the most owned on FanDuel.
Menifield.
No. Come on, this is easy.
Pereira.
Montana De La Rosa.
Oh, she's $9.
At $9, yeah, that's tough. I mean,
so over on FanDuel right now, right? Based on the landscape of everything we're dealing with, I would suggest playing Montana De La Rosa or Cole Smith because they're both so cheap that you can pay up on other spots on FanDuel.
Yeah, I was just looking on DraftKings to see if because I've got to put some rosters in here, and they're still saying 6 p.m. So hopefully they change that start time. That'll help us out a lot. Who do you guys now have a sneaky FanDuel MVP for GPPs? Man, sneak. I think it's tough to be sneaky.
Anything sneaky now?
I think I will have a lot of Pereira. I will have a lot of Menifield. If I was going to be sneaky, I hate to say it, Azure or Smith.
Yeah. I think Overeem at 22 could go overlooked on FanDuel.
So earlier this week when I was trying to build lineups, it was tough for me because when I looked at my core on FanDuel being Pereira, Menifield, and who was the third? Oh, and Romanov. It was really tough to get to Overeem at $22.
Yeah.
I thought it was much easier to build lineups on DraftKings than it was FanDuel. If you had to pick one fighter who you would lock and who you would fade at this point. Damn, that's a good question. That's a good question.
I'm sticking to it. I like Muniz.
Because of his price point, it becomes a natural pivot.
I think it's
even though I'm so scared that he could literally get just taken down the first 30 seconds of the round and not get up.
Yeah, but that kind of plays into his style, Jason. And it's not like Fabinski's some crazy ground and pound guy. He's a lay and pray guy. And as going up against a jiu-jitsu guy, you're almost like welcoming it. Like, think of how like Cowboy Cerrone when he was fighting, Mike Perry. And Mike Perry took him down. Cowboy just let him. And he's like, okay, cool. Like, take me out of the danger zone and put me where I'm familiar. And, Fabinski has been submitted by a heel hook in the past. He has been submitted by, you know what I mean? Like there's ways for Muniz to get this done. Now, can Fabinski absolutely dominate him with, takedown city? Absolutely.
The thing about roster construction on DK is if you put Montana De La Rosa in your lineup, it makes roster construction easier.
Yeah.
The thing is, just looking at it from a DK perspective, you're going to have to roster Cole Smith, Montana De La Rosa, or Sakai. I think you have. I don't think you could create a lineup without those three. If you're not, and also if you're not stacking a fight. I personally I don't like stacking fights. It's just something I don't like to do. But I think if you're going to stack a fight, I think you're right. Just because it's 5 rounds, it would be the main event.
I'm with you, man. 5 rounds is 5 rounds, Jason. Now it could end before 3, and it could end in 3, which would be terrible, but
could end in 1.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. This is crazy, man.
De La Rosa or Munoz for a salary saver?
Muniz.
Yeah, I agree with you there. All
right, I need to. You know what?
I mean, look, the thing on ownership tonight is everyone's going to be highly owned. Everyone's going to be highly owned, especially when you're playing in these big GPPs. I mean, I think that is something that you have to think about.
So I say it's a single entry type of night because besides that, you're going to be tying with the top.
Here's something also to note, because one of the comments was, Cole Smith is a better fighter. I watched Azure interviews. He looks totally checked out and unmotivated after that knockout loss. One of the concerns that I would have for Hunter Azure, he trains at Fight Ready, and the head striking coach for Fight Ready is Eddie Cha. Eddie Cha's in Korea working with the Zombie. So I would be a little concerned in terms of that aspect, So we'll see about that. Andrew says they have pushed the starting time to 7 p.m. on FanDuel. That is excellent news. We'll have to see if DraftKings does the same.
Yeah, I'm looking right now at the fights going to decision, and the two that stick out to me of going the distance, 3 that stick out to me. Predicted that Cole Smith, Hunter Azure goes the distance. Montana De La Rosa, Araujo goes the distance. And then the Muniz and Fabinski fight, oddly enough. And that would be because of Fabinski really, his career of just lay and pray for 15 minutes.
So I think here's an interesting question. And someone brought this up in the chat is, okay, there is ways to be different tonight. Okay.
Yep.
So let's look at DraftKings because I just pulled up the ownership projections that we have. So it was updated about a half hour ago. If you're going to be different, I think Viviana Araujo would make you different. I think De La Rosa's ownership is going to be high because of her price. Kind of like what I mentioned a little while ago. You're going to have to take those low-owned fighters, probably 2 of them, and which 2 of them are those going to be? So I would look at Viviana Araujo, maybe someone, if she wins, good chance of being an optimal.
You ready? I would agree with you. But you ready for what I'm going to say with that? My rebuttal to that?
Okay, go ahead.
Of my person that I think will break the slate that nobody's talking about if he wins.
Okay.
Amadev.
I was thinking him. How about OSP?
Yeah, I think he'll be somewhat popular now, though. I mean, like you brought it up on Thursday's show of how you liked him as an underdog, and it's a safe underdog based on his resume.
The
But like,
the only
you know,
thing
okay, go ahead.
the only thing that concerns me, I mentioned about this on Thursday. OSP backs up too much, and in that small cage, I can really see that if Minifield is able to cut him off against the cage, he can just start throwing some bombs.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I mean, when you put yourself in a corner and you're going up against a guy who's a really heavy-handed striker, uh, that's a recipe for disaster. I mean, especially trying to rope a dope, that you're just going to get knocked out. But I'm telling you, my play. Now, does he go out there and win? Most likely not. I don't think that Amadev wins. Now, let me kind of like put my little fight twist on it. Michelle Pereira, right, is really reckless and makes a lot of technical mistakes of dropping his hands and not moving his head despite the flips and the acrobatics. You know, Amadev has knocked plenty of people out with counter left hooks. So he'll shell up, bop, bop, and he does have clean hands. The guy is skilled. But he did put up a stinker against Max Griffin, and then he put up a stinker in his last fight, and he got knocked out. So I think Amadev might be one of the guys that's going to be somewhat low owned.
Someone actually just mentioned about stacking that fight. Michelle gets off to a great start. Zaleem's able to survive and gets a late knockout.
Yep. I'm telling you, when this show's over, I might increase my exposure to Amadev basically because my lineups are toast right now. If I'm looking at it, like I had Romanov everywhere, and I need to think how people aren't thinking. Um, and I think that's one way where chalk can explode in your face.
Yeah. By the way, DraftKings has pushed the start time to 7
Thank God.
p.m. Appreciate everyone in the chat saying that. I went on my app, and yep, it's 7 p.m. Eastern time. So that is definitely something great there. Of course, do want to let you know, you can see it right now on the screen. Sign up for an Awesemo Plus monthly NFL pass. Get 25% off when you use the promo code SLEEPER at checkout, as that'll get you access to all of Awesemo's leading player projections, ownership projections, premium content, and more for NFL DFS. This limited time offer is available through September 9th. Give you a month of Awesemo Plus NFL and the Draft Kit, an $80 value for only $38. Sign up now by clicking the Awesemo Plus tab on the Awesemo.com homepage. I'm probably going to need a little bit of that Draft Kit. As I was talking about earlier today on the NASCAR show, look, you tell me about, I can tell you about the NFC South. I can tell you about them 4 teams. Rest of the league, I need some help on that. You know, I know what's going on with the Bucks. I know what's going on with the Saints and the Panthers and the Falcons. But yeah. So I've got a draft on Monday. Actually, my buddy was just texting me during the show, say, "Hey, you good for Monday?" So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So you got to take advantage of that offer right now at Awesemo.com. Use that promo code Sleeper to get 25% off your Awesemo NFL monthly pass. Let's see here. What fight have we not really talked about?
Okay. What fight is left? Hold on. I think we talked about everything, but let's make cases for people. Cole Smith, he's tough. He can push a pace. He can make it ugly. He could test the chin of Hunter Azure, but hasn't really fought like the highest level of competition outside the UFC. It's a reach. It's a reach, but he could get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that if Cole gets the job done, it's meaning he took the fight to the ground. That would be my thought.
It's hard to see that happen, though, Jason. Like, how is he gonna? I mean, he's big for the weight class. And all right, let me think about what I saw, weigh-ins. I thought Overeem looked in great shape. Sakai looked like his normal out of shape self, but like it's a little deceptive because it's just his body image. I thought Michelle Pereira and Zalim Amadev both look strong and obviously emotional. I think that they both need wins here. So when people are fighting emotional, you can definitely see mistakes happen. And sometimes the more technical guy will end up capitalizing on it. I thought Andre Muniz looked really, really big compared to Bartosz Fabinski. And I thought he looked strong and big and looked like he was in incredible shape. And that really surprised me because I didn't think he was going to look like that. Hunter Azure looked in great shape, and Cole Smith looked just taller and really lean, somewhat sucked out. But we'll have to see how the weight cut, how he deals with the weight cut.
News God mentioned this he says, is stacking 2 fights a strategy tonight?
Yeah, I was going to make the joke of maybe we stack 2 fights. And I mean, I got some lineups out there that are just completely ruined now, and I might try it. I really might try it. I might get some 5-round exposure, and then stack one of the very, the high active fights, as in like the Fabinski Muniz fight, the Raul De La Rosa fight. It's crazy.
Yeah. I also should note that Ray Rodriguez is not going to be added to the to slate in terms of DFS, so that's something that you got to play in there. So, we got 7 fights, but we can't play 14 fighters. We can only play 13 fighters.
So weird, bro. So weird. If you guys are tuning in right now because you're scrambling like we are, and all this news is breaking, and you're trying to swap people out, smash that like button for us. We're here to help you out, and we enjoy breaking down the fights, answering all your questions. If you have questions, don't be shy. Honestly, throw them in there, and we'll get to them.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing would be is how many people have just canceled their lineups for tonight.
I have earlier when the news of Jalen Turner did, so I canceled my lineups. And I don't know a better way of doing it, so I had to go in there and manually withdraw every single one. And then I put them back in without Jalen Turner or Thiago Moises. And now I'm going to have to scramble after the show and figure it out. But a lot of people just won't bother. They set their lineups early. You have to think of the NBA. You have to think of other slates that are popping off now that could affect people's rosters, and they're just not bothering with MMA. So you could have a lot of dead lineups in there that we could take advantage of.
Exactly. Someone brought that up earlier. If someone's, not paying attention, and then all of a sudden lineups lock, and they've got Thiago Moses in there. They've got, Romanov in their lineups. This is where you could take potentially advantage in some of these big tournaments. And, of course, today's a great day. You need a little help building those lineups. Take a look at our ownership projections, our player projections, the top fighters tool, and to get access to all those, all you got to do is sign up for the MMA Weekly Pass for $8.95. Just go to awesemo.com/join. Yeah, once me and Pete get off the air here in about 10 minutes or so before NBA Live before lock, that's what I'm going to be doing. That's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be looking at what Alex has and start making some lineups, man. But yeah, it's I think, tonight, even before all these changes, tonight was not going to be a night where I had a ton of action, just because I didn't love this card from a DFS perspective.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm going to, I'll be playing some lines and trying to figure out, how, I might play more cash games tonight than I do GPPs.
Yeah, it's a weird night. So let me throw this out at you guys, and I want you to understand that you could really do something about your lineups, okay? Because we lost Rosa Eubanks, Natividad, Moises Turner, Romanov de Lima. 7 fighters that were in the DraftKings pool are now out.
That were there on Thursday.
What's that?
Remember, that was Thursday. Because we lost Eubanks Rosa.
Oh, yeah.
Right before we did the strategy show.
In the DraftKings app, those fighters are still, you can look at, so if people set their lineup super early, they're still going to have those fighters that are dead in the water. So take advantage of it, and let's start targeting some of these fights. Even in losses, you can shoot up more. Getting some points are better than no points.
Kyle brings up a great point. He says, using Fancy Cruncher now, with De La Rosa carrying tons of ownership, how much exposure is too much exposure on FanDuel? When I looked earlier, her ownership was insane on FanDuel.
$9 makes it very hard to get away from over on FanDuel. Now, you're talking DraftKings, completely different thing. Araujo could go overlooked because of this exact scenario.
Here's the question. On FanDuel, would you rather go $1 more for Cole Smith?
I don't know. That's really close. That's like
I might lean towards Cole.
that's like which one's uglier? I don't know.
This is
like
my concern with Montana De La Rosa is if she cannot get in top position on the ground, how does she win?
armbar from guard.
Okay, that's the default answer. Okay, but I mean, like, okay, let's say she can't get to the ground. Can she win the fight on the feet?
I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is we look at volume. Araujo is very talented, has volume and power, throws 4.5 strikes per minute. De La Rosa will have to do something significantly different because she only throws 2.5 strikes per minute. She's going to be behind on a lot of the exchanges. And, when you're facing a guy or a fighter, for that matter, that throws and hits you hard in the face, you're going to be a little bit more tentative more than usual.
Another question we got here. This is from Jason Miller. He goes, stack Munoz-Sabinski or Munoz and Araujo single entry FanDuel. I would say stack Munoz-Sabinski. Because on FanDuel, the potential of stopping takedowns. Because that's what Fabinski's going to be trying to do.
I think Araujo wins. I really do. I think Araujo wins. So the Muniz and Araujo together, that was one option? I don't hate that.
Yeah.
What a mess. But we're all in it together. So let's.
Yeah. This is. I saw someone say that this is the first 7-fight card for the UFC since 2005.
Where's Chimaev at?
Did you see that they booked him against Mershart, and then they're going to try to do Damian Maia? I think he is getting very bad advice.
Yeah, he's taking the fast track to the top, and he's gonna.
Why rush? Why rush?
There's no need. There's really no need. It's just trying to. Make money off of a hot name.
Munoz or Kelleher GPP?
Ooh, okay, so I have to say Kelleher in that scenario.
By the way, Miles said he goes asked about will Kelleher score with no opponent. Yes, they have already said he will count for points. So if that's any of your concerns, Jim Jeff says I'll stack 3 fights and smoke a fatty.
Hey, bro, you might have to do something to take some stress away from this card. This
All
thing
right.
is
Araujo or Overeem on DraftKings?
God. I don't feel confident in Overeem. I really don't.
See, here's also the thing, because people are asking about who's going to break the slate. It's kind of, when you only have 13 fighters to choose from, it does make things a little bit different. It would probably be Cole Smith, honestly.
I think Amadev. I think he breaks the slate if he wins. Who is the fighter you feel the most confident in? DFS. We'll say DraftKings. Because salary really doesn't matter.
Probably Michelle. People forget how great he looked against Diego. He looked amazing. It was his best performance by far, no question.
But, I mean, it is Diego at this point in his career, and when he's not grappling and engaging in grappling, he kind of looks really hittable. I mean, Diego was stopped by Joe Lozon. So, I don't know. I think my most confident pick, I think Araujo.
Yeah. By the way, I would agree with one of the comments. Thank God the UFC is going back to Fight Island. Starts September 26th with the pay-per-view. They'll be there for a month. It'll go all the way through the Khabib Gaethje fight, and then it'll be back in Vegas.
So I was wrong, right? You asked me how many changes we'd have, and I took the under. Did I bring this upon us? Did I did I bring this mess upon us by betting the under of how many fight changes? I said 1.5. What did I say? 2.5?
Yeah. I set the number at 2.5. You took the under.
Yeah. I did
Crazy.
this to us.
We've got this question a couple times. How many points do we think Kelleher could get? His ceiling is probably...
He has a 100-point ceiling.
Yeah.
His submissions. What's his floor?
In a win on DK, I'd probably say 70.
Yeah, I'd say 75. The problem is Kelleher has now had to switch opponents, 3 times?
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect him mentally? How does that affect his strategy? Now, they're kind of the same. Not really. See, they're not really the same at all. So it's not like he's going grappler. He's fighting, was fighting the TV Dodd, who has good hands and relies on a lot of takedowns. And now his new opponent likes to strike and can get taken down a little bit easier. But how does he deal with 3 different body types? It's really hard.
Yeah. By the way, we got 400 people in here watching us. So we got 116 likes. Let's try to get that up before over 150 before we get out of here in about 3-ish minutes or so, as we'll lead you into NBA Live Before Lock. Then we got MLB Live Before Lock, EMAC and Adam coming up next for NBA Live Before Lock, as I did my NBA lineups a little earlier, so that's already done for the day, so I got to worry about that too much. Just now, Colby asked about stacking the Michelle and Salim fight. I think I would like that option just because I think it's going to stay on the feet too. I think you could, obviously you're just hoping it's not a knockout in the first round, but if that's a fight that gets to the third round, you could see a good score in that one.
Yeah, I think they're both going to bring it, man, and it's who really can take the shot. Like Amadiev, he got knocked out hard in his last bout, but coming into the UFC, the guy was really like heralded as some next big thing. So I don't, Pereira has lost 11 times. So, Amadiev could just put him on his back too, but stranger things have happened, Jason. And, maybe you take the approach of picking the fighter who's facing the guys with the most losses. So you take like a Sakai, a Menafield, a Mata, you know what I mean? Taking the guys with double-digit losses.
Someone asked about FanDuel MVP. Contrarian may be Sakai.
It's very contrarian, but I like it because Overeem should look to take him down.
Yeah, but we're going to see what happens. By the way, got to mention, starting next week, the strategy show will now be on Wednesday. We will be on right after MLB Live Before Lock. I believe I might be doing MLB Live Before Lock on Wednesday. So, but we'll be on right after that, so you can check us out on Wednesdays with obviously the NFL season starting on Thursday. We're moving the strategy show to Wednesdays. Of course, we will be here on Saturday as well, Live Before Lock. Let's get in one more question before we get out of here. Michelle Pahea or Brian Kelleher on FanDuel? They're 18 and 17.
Kelleher.
Interesting.
Kelleher
He's a safer play.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, that is going to be interesting to see. But of course, be sure to stay locked here at Awesemo.com. Coming up next, we got the MLB Live Before or NBA Live Before Lock show. EMAC and Adam, and then they'll have MLB Live Before Lock as EMAC is going to be joined by Terry. So be sure to check that out. So this has been the MMA Live Before Lock show. Of course, we are here every week, so be sure to check us out. And we are going to get out of here for this edition of MMA Live Before Lock.